if Jordan Love continues to play like this for the rest of the year, will Green Bay get a new quarterback next year?
Again, with the thing with Jordan Love, I think he's in one of those situations. I'll even kind of compare him to Justin last year.
Okay.
Hear me out. Where it's like, you see some good, you see more bad, but it's like, we haven't really given him enough to for sure show him out the door yet. It's like an unfair situation. Like the O-line's not good enough to fully evaluate yet. The receiving core is definitely just too young. You got to add another veteran guy in there, another star guy in there. It's like, then you do that in this next offseason, see how it looks then. And it's like, then if it's not the guy, then he's for sure not the guy. That's how I'm feeling the Packers front office is going to look at it, especially from a asset standpoint. Then you have to spend your pick or whatever, a bunch of money on that asset this year.
Right.
You give the guy you spend a lot of assets on another chance before you have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like shell out more assets for the same guy, So I feel like he's got at least one more year, but probably not more than that if they do give him this other year.
I agree. I think a big thing too is like when you're following up to Hall of Fame quarterbacks, like it's just like the fan base doesn't know what to expect when they watch a quarterback who's not just slinging it.
That's why it's almost unfair.
It is very unfair. I could see Jordan Love being successful in the NFL. I've said it before, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I necessarily believe in like the discipline of the Packers. And I think Rodgers like kind of kept everything together. I don't know if Matt LaFleur is the guy that is going to do that.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, because if anything, it's kind of like, I'm sure that Matt LaFleur is the guy who's going to have the security over Jordan Love.
Yeah.
But let's say that they decide to just start fresh, like off both of them. If they decide that like it was really bad next year, like Matt LaFleur is definitely going to be in a situation now where it's going to be like, we're going to see because I think I kind of recrowned him a little early. First couple games into the year, I was kind of like, like Matt LaFleur we've seen still cooking. Definitely not. Because something I had here I want to talk about. It's really interesting. But look, the Packers have one game above 25 points where they scored more than 25 points.
It's been bad.
Like, that's really bad, especially when you're Matt LaFleur and you're supposed to be an offensive guy. So if you're the Packers front office, you got to start saying to yourself, look, man, Matt's got to start showing me a little more too. All I'm trying to say is I crowned him a little too early as the Packers guy for sure for the future.
I agree. All right, moving into Minnesota, Kirk Cousins goes down. Just traded a first round pick for him in Dynasty the week before this happens. What does Minnesota do at quarterback?
That's atrocious. You did that. I did not even know that.
I was about to. I'm like one of the best teams in the league, and my weakness was at quarterback. So I was like, "Fuck it, this might put me over the top." He's a top 6 quarterback.
Sickening,
yeah,
bro.
Sickening.
No, but even more sickening. And on a serious note, prayers up for Kirk.
Yeah.
Great guy. You don't want to see it happen to
anybody.
It
was like Nick Chubb getting hurt.
Yeah, it's like one of the last guys. It's like
why?
You're like, come on now. And again, because you don't want to see it happen to anybody. But a guy like Kirk, it's like, come on now, Kirk, really? And the Terry's been on. Yeah, it sucks. But more than anything, again, now if you're a Vikings fan, there was already bleak and kind of uncertainty looking into the future, right?
Right.
But now it's like, oh man, like we really got to probably brace for a really rough next couple of years. And it sucks, that feeling. I know the feeling. Every fan base probably at this point in your life, if you've watched football for a while, you know the feeling. That's kind of like the Vikings fans right now, where no matter what, you're gonna have to, unless, and let's be, we're objective here. Unless Jaren Hall steps in and just absolutely lights it up and balls out, when it leaves no doubt, which, again, we talk about how likely things are. Is
very
it likely?
Unlikely.
It's very unlikely. So, very likely, then on the other hand, yeah, the Vikings are in a really, really sudden, full-blown rebuild. Because Kirk's not on contract, essentially, anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
this is one of those situations where it's like you almost should have just tried to get what you could have got for him.
That's what you were saying earlier. And again, it's like a no victory lap stuff, none of that. But this is why you have to get the value off, especially when you aren't going to keep them.
Right.
It makes no sense. Like, from a logical standpoint, it actually holds no sense. And that's the thing, is why people do it, is if anything, it's when you start to worry too much about stuff you can't control. Like, well, what's he going to say about it? Or what's the media going to say? Or what's the fans going to say? But that's the thing, is when you control a team, you got to be the one making decisions. And too many of these guys are afraid to pull the trigger right when I think things would be perfect. Or maybe they feel like, I'm not getting enough value. I'm not getting exact. But you know what? The market usually is going to tell you what the market's going to tell you.
Right.
And if you didn't take what you didn't take when you had the chance, and now the value's not there. You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
So that's just where I think, if you're a GM, if anything, and you know your guy's going to be gone, it makes no sense to hold on to him for you another minute.
That's what the Giants did with Leonard Williams.
Minus when you have a value on them, right? It's like you decide on a value. That's the thing too. Is too many GMs too indecisive. I'm gonna wait a while. I'm gonna wait weeks and weeks and see what's offering what. Yeah, well, guess what? Sometimes life doesn't just work like that. You don't just get to keep guessing and hope that they're gonna stay healthy playing this violent game. Sometimes if you know you gotta get rid of them, you gotta get rid of them right when it's time and values at peak.
I agree. You got anything else you want to say on the game, or?
Well, I was gonna say, if anything, one note I was gonna say is that both these teams too, what makes it so rough with Jordan Love and Kirk, both of their run games are also just so non-existent that it's like that's what makes both these situations so rough. Is with the Packers, you got the young receiving core, young offense, and no run game, and then with the Vikings, it's like you bring Jaron Hall in, and you're gonna have like both bottom 10 rushing offenses, and it's just that is an atrocious situation for both these teams now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Aaron Jones is basically signed through next year, and like, I don't know. Like, I think about like, what if the Colts would have traded Aaron Jones for Jonathan Taylor, or not Aaron Jones for Jonathan Taylor, but traded for Jonathan Taylor?
That would have been so. No, I know what you meant.
I feel like in hindsight, it's like almost better that deal didn't happen.
It would be crazy, but honestly, yes. And especially because we'll get into it when we talk about the Colts game. I have something I want to talk about with Jonathan Taylor. Last thing I want to say about the Vikings real quick. I got to give Danielle Hunter a shout out. Nobody talks about it recently. Leads the league in sacks and tackles for a loss. 10 sacks, 12 tackles for a loss. Shouts to Danielle Hunter.
Yeah. I was curious. I almost feel like maybe he's more, I mean, obviously the deadline's tomorrow. If it's more likely he gets dealt now that Kirk is out.
Again, we're talking about when values are at their peak. Well, you certainly wouldn't find a more peak value on Danielle Hunter.